Okay, I have 8 minutes until my chicken nuggets are ready, so I need to film this really quickly. Hi, my name is Stephanie. I am an artist here on YouTube, and I just wanted to film a really quick what I read this year. Before the year is up, it's currently 1:39 on New Year's Eve. I'm going out tonight, so I just wanted to get this done. My dog thinks that it's time to be talking too. Let's hit the screen record. Okay, so just a quick disclaimer. I read by listening to audiobooks a lot of the time. It's one of the fastest ways for me to absorb the information. I do have some of these that I read with physical books, so I might not have them all. I think I only have one in front of me. So yeah, I just as a like disclaimer, read a lot of audiobooks, ebooks, and physical books. So, you know, the reading is still getting done, but it does look a little bit different. So with that being said, for 2025, I read 31 books. That was pretty much my goal. Overall, 11,554 pages. On average, it took me 19 days to finish a book. I ranked pretty high in like the emotional mood. That's usually how it is every year, to be honest. Lighthearted, funny, reflective, dark, mysterious, and so on and so forth, and you'll see that on the screen. Pace, this is based off of what I'm putting into Storygraph as far as the rating goes when I finish the book. And not all of these, I don't think all of these are rated as of right now. I'll probably go in and add that afterwards, but for the most part, everything is pretty at a medium pace. And I say that because depending on what I'm doing, like my focus might not be there, so it's always like usually a medium. It's pretty rare that it's slow. And it's also pretty rare that it goes by so quickly, like depending on how good the book is, if I want to put it down. Page numbers, I was in between 300 to 499. That was like my average. I rarely read anything that's above 500 pages, just as like a disclaimer. And then 37% of that was less than 300. So just to give you an idea, I don't really read big books. I think Fourth Wing is like probably going to be the biggest. And this year, I kind of switched it up. I usually read a lot of nonfiction as far as like in the form of memoirs, things like that. So I'm pretty surprised 81% of it is fiction and 19% is nonfiction. My genres, of course, right now, mainly contemporary, romance, LGBTQIA+ romance. That is like my favorite genre right now. And it's funny because I started reading because of college and school. I read the classics. I read a lot of horror and well, not horror, but I read a lot of thriller. And I just recently got into romance like last year. So this checks out. Format, like I mentioned, it's gonna be 77% is audio. That's wild. 10% print and 13% digital. That's crazy. My most read author, Emily Henry. One of my new favorites, Haley Cass. Julia Whelan, I did discover that she wrote books too, other than just narrating. And narrating, like Julia Whelan is my favorite narrator. And then Monica McCallan. I also read a few of her books. And my average rating was a 3.6. That's pretty good. I would say, like, I had a pretty good reading year, to be honest. So going back up, I want to look at the books that I read. And I'm going to switch it up. So earlier in the year, I read Getting Clean with Stevie Green. This was a pretty good book. I honestly, this was an ebook format, so for sure, like, it was, I would read it when I was having trouble sleeping. I would pick it up, and yeah, I really resonated with this for a lot of different reasons. The description says, at 37, Stevie Green has had it with binge drinking and sleeping with strange men. She's confused about her sexuality and her purpose in life. When her mother asks her to return to her hometown of La Jolla to help her move into a new house, she's desperate enough to say yes. And just to give you a little bit of a tidbit, I did like it, but I do remember, like, I liked it because it was set in, like, my hometown of San Diego. She wasn't super likable, and I'm getting pretty comfortable with reading characters, main characters that aren't likable. And then I read Master of Me by Keke Palmer. Oh, my chicken nuggets are ready. I read Master of Me by Keke Palmer. That was an audiobook. It was great. I was a personal assistant at the time of reading it, and it really did, like, wake me up and motivate me to make some changes in my life, so I'm really glad that I read it. And then I read Happy Place by Emily Henry, 4.75. This book made me cry. I was very surprised. Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. Loved this book. I loved this book. I really liked that the two main characters, like, didn't really like each other. If I'm remembering this correctly, let me look really quick. Yes, they used to be friends, and then they, like, have to get into a car with their old teacher and take him across the state, and yeah, it was one of my favorite. I keep thinking my eye is going cross-eyed. It was one of my favorite books. Yeah, 4.25 is pretty high. Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan. I loved this book. I loved learning more about her. I know that it's fiction, but it felt like there was a piece of her in it, and I felt like I learned a lot about the audiobook world. All the girls are so nice here. I gave it a 2.75, not my favorite. I don't even remember. I think it just felt really repetitive and high school, and I just couldn't relate. My Oxford Year, Julia Whelan. I gave that 4 stars. I also watched the movie later on in the year when it came out. I loved it. It was beautiful. This book definitely made me cry. Then I read Perspective by Monica McCallan. 4 stars. Very spicy book. Loved it. I read Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. That I gave it 4 stars. And you know what? I kind of want to change my rating because I don't really remember much of the book right now. When You Least Expect... Oh, Better Than Expected by Haley Cass. I really liked getting into Haley Cass's characters this time around. And then I read Back to the Start, Monica McCallan. I was on a really big, like, lesbian romance book kick at the beginning of the year. And then I read Flip Cup by Kim Hartfield. This one, I gave it a 3.75. I felt like it was a little slow at times, and it felt like it was trying to just be spicy for the sake of being spicy, and I didn't really love that. Let me go get my chicken nuggets out of the oven. Okay. My chicken nuggets are steaming. And then I read Feast While You Can by Michaela Clements and Anjula Dada. I gave this a 3.75. I feel like I could tell that it was there were certain things that, like, I didn't love and I felt a little bit triggered by. I think I actually started this as an audiobook. And it was too scary for me to continue listening to. And I actually felt a little bit triggered by it. So I went and switched to the audiobook, or the ebook, and I gave it a 3.75. My issues with it were just like the pacing felt weird. And I don't know if that's because I think there are 2 different writers on this. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm gonna have to double check that, but I just felt like it wasn't consistent, and I could tell that in the pace. I read Women Artists by Flavia Ferragni. This was a 5-star. It was kind of like a coffee table book, and I actually do own it, but I think it's in my closet because I'm trying to sell it. So if you're interested in this, then it's on my Depop. Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't spicy enough for how it was being presented, if that makes any sense. And I read that as an ebook. I read it over vacation. I then went and read Those Who Wait by Haley Cass. I gave it 3 stars, and I think at this point, based off of my next rating on the same page by Haley Cass, I was over romance for a little bit. I had to take a break, really, because I just like wasn't seeing the originality in these 2 books. And then I read A Funny Story by Emily Henry. I gave it 4 stars. Impeccable writing. Same thing with Great Big Beautiful Life. I also gave that 4 stars. Just phenomenal. Beach Read I read next, and that like wasn't my favorite, so I gave it 3. Beach Read by Emily Henry. And then I read Hello Girls by Emily Henry and Brittany Cavallaro. I gave it Caballero. Brittany Caballero. Okay, I read Hello Girls by Emily Henry and Brittany Caballero. I gave this 4 stars. I really like this, and I actually kind of think about this book like every now and then, which says a lot. I went back into like autobiography memoir mode, and I read Semi Well Adjusted Despite Literally Everything by Alison Stoner. This book is really triggering. You just need to like pay attention and take care of yourself. If you're not like in the headspace to listen to certain things, it's pretty triggering. And for some reason I gave it 4 stars. I don't remember why. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab was next, and I gave this 2.75. I felt like it dragged on forever. Maybe this should have been a physical book kind of thing, because it felt long. It felt like it deserved more attention than I could give it at the time. I then went and read Daddy. This is a collection of short stories by Emma Cline, and I gave it 2.75. It just wasn't my favorite. I felt like everything was really generic. I hate saying that, but I feel like it's true, at least for things that I've read. I read Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Glasgow. I gave this 4 stars. I really liked this book. I loved the characters, and I felt like I could anticipate the growth that ended up happening in the end. So I loved that. The Night We Lost Him, I gave that 2 stars. That one is by Laura Dave. Not my favorite. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what this book is about. I think her dad dies. I don't know. Somebody's dad dies, and they're like looking for him, and they can't figure out if he's alive or not. I don't even remember. That's a great question. I'd love to tell you by Elise Myers. I gave this 3 stars. I think there was something wrong with my audiobook copy because it was being really weird. And it just kept acting funny, and that's not why I gave it 3 stars. I gave it 3 stars because I didn't really love the writing. I was super confused a lot of the time. I didn't feel like it followed a linear path that most autobiographies or God, what are these called? Memoirs. Most memoirs follow. It didn't follow that same kind of formula, and I get it. I really do. I feel like she was trying to do something really different, and it just didn't work for me. I then read Just As You Are by Cameron Kellogg, 2.75. Literally, I don't remember anything about this book. It is a lesbian romance. I think she like falls in love with her boss, and then like her boss and her friend also fall in love with each other. There's 2 bosses, 2 friends that fall in love with each other. I don't know. I was bored. Anywhere You Go by Bridget Morrissey, I gave it 2.75. This is like The Holiday, but like a gay version. It was fine. Never Get Angry Again by David Lieberman. I just finished this book and I really liked it. It was cheesy, like it's an anger management book for people who deal with that. I'm dealing with that, so I'm reading books on it, on how to like get better at not losing my mind every day. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and give it 4 stars because it really is like, it is cutesy and all that, sure, but it's also just, it was really helpful and it was really a good reminder. It was well written. I have no, oh no, it froze. I have no like, I don't really have much bad things to say about it. It's a self-help book. So, Nava Kavlin, Sophie Ansari, and Peg Badgley wrote a book called Crushmore, and they are the hosts of the Pod Crushed podcast. I loved it. I loved this book. It made me cry at my desk, and that's really all I have to say. Those were all the books I read this year. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna eat. Bye-bye.